Hello, bonjour. My name is Gregory Tardy. As you can see by following current events, in a democracy, it's important not only to hold elections periodically, it's even more significant to have an informed electorate, to offer genuine choice to the voters, to avoid encumbering them with falsehoods and trickery, and especially to have all the participants in the electoral process observe the rule of law. I have been so thoroughly interested in this subject matter for a long time, and I believe it to be so vital for democracy that I've written a book about it. Anatomy of an Election is the book in question, and it focuses on Canada's most recent federal general election, that of October 21, 2019. This book takes a thorough look at the 43rd general election in a new manner, that is, in the form of a diary. If you have heard a different version of this introduction before, that is because you have been invited to this virtual book launch. I have to begin by offering my thanks to Irwin Law Publishers for having allowed me to cooperate with them in getting this book done. In particular, I want to express words of thanks to Jeff Miller, to Leslie Steve, to Marg-Ann Morrison, Dana Peterson Deeprose, and Rosaro Nirnawumwami. Sorry if I mangled that a little bit. It's a long name. In fact, to publish a book is not only the work of an author, it takes a team, perhaps not a village, but at least a team. I'm told that today's event is the first virtual book launch ever done by Irwin, so you'll have to bear with us if some technicalities go wrong. This, of course, is a technical response to current circumstances of COVID. It took a little bit of doing back and forth between Ottawa and Toronto. However, the good news is that most of us in the room today, or on the screen today, are lawyers, and we can deem ourselves to be together at this book launch. I'd like to give you a few words about the flavor of this book. As I had occasion to mention before, there can be no doubt that elections are important in the national life of all democracies. And in fact, they are the democratic milestones in the evolution of a country. Now, it's important for us to be on the same page in understanding the concept of democracy. Democracy with a capital D is a very broad concept expressing a form of government. Democracy with a lowercase d, and by the way, this is a distinction that I have developed in the course of my teaching at McGill Faculty of Law. Democracy with a lowercase d is the process of freely electing a government. Lowercase democracy is one of the vital components of the overall democratic form of government, along, as the Supreme Court of Canada has told us, along with constitutionalism and the rule of law. There is a particular reference in the subtitle of this book. In fact, it says, looking at elections through the lens of political law. And I want to explain to you a little bit why I included that. In my opinion, law and politics are absolutely inseparable. What we need to analyze is their mutual relationship. So this book looks at elections through the prism of political law, that is, within the electoral context, what is the relationship between law and politics? And of course, I need to mention that in this book, as in my public service career, there's a complete degree of political neutrality. This is a book of analysis, not of advocacy. Anatomy of an election has a particular, perhaps interesting background. When I was at Elections Canada in 1993, during the 1993 general election, I first developed the idea of doing a law book, doing a book about elections, I should say, in the form of a lawyer's diary. During the course of that election, I had the opportunity to write all of about 7 pages in that style. And that paper was circulated, but it was not published. Then, from 1997 until 2015, with respect to every single election, I wrote something. But each time there was an impediment to completing the task of doing a complete diary about the entire election. And finally, in 2019, I decided that this was the moment that I really had to get this done. It was a case of now or never. I thought the idea was too good to abandon, and it was high time to get it done now. Some preliminaries, if you'll allow me. The dedication in this book is to the time I spent with my parents, and that covers the time span from 1949 until 2019. That I thought was a really appropriate way of linking from one generation to the other. And then there's the issue of the foreword. A few days after I got the green light from Irwin Law, I asked Peter Mansbridge, the former host of the CBC National News, to do the foreword for this book. We had a couple of emails back and forth, and he very graciously accepted this task. And I have to tell you what particularly led me to him, besides the fact that he's a national figure and for decades he's been involved with Canadian elections. What led me to him was that I had a particular memory of his opening remarks on the occasion of the general election of June 28, 2004. He opened the election reporting of that night at exactly 7 o'clock Eastern Daylight Saving Time on what was then Newsworld with the following words. In an infinite universe, on a planet often convulsed by violence, there is Canada. Its commitment to peace, order, and good government a daily reality. A nation of democratic principles, the central government is formed by the will of the people. Citizens send men and women to the capital city to make the laws of the land. Their work is done on Parliament Hill, the single most potent symbol of the Canadian democracy. And tonight, we are here to report on who you have decided to empower to lead us all. The polls have just closed in Newfoundland. The votes are about to be counted. That, I think, is the most beautiful opening set of remarks for a report on a general election and the results of a general election.